Hi, this is David. We are continuing our trek through the tutorial at Angular.io, and we're actually here on number 6, the very last lesson in the tutorial, where we're going to learn about HTTP. We already have a service that gets our list of heroes, but right now that's just, it has a hard-coded array right inside the service, and we're just binding to that array. In the real world, we probably would be calling some loosely coupled system, maybe via HTTP, maybe a REST endpoint, and that's what we're going to do here. Angular ships with an HTTP module that we can tap into, and also a web API module that we can use as well. All right, let's start by adding this HTTP client module. We'll add it in app module TS, so it's available everywhere. So the first thing we'll do is open up our code and go to app module TS and import this right here, and then we're going to use npm node package manager to install the Angular in-memory web API. So this will be a web server that will serve up some web services for us. So if I go to this command line and run that, it should install it. I actually installed it already, so it may tell you that it updated it, but there's no harm in installing it more than once. And then I'll go back into my app module TS and add some stuff from the Angular in-memory API and also from this in-memory data.service, which we haven't yet created. So let's go back in here and import some stuff from here because we haven't created it yet. It's got a squiggly line under it. We also want to add some things to this ng module imports right here. Let's do that. We'll add the HTTP client module so it's available everywhere, and we'll add the HTTP client in-memory web API module with some parameters passed into it. So down at the end of this array list, we'll add a couple of more things. It's kind of hard to see they're all part of the same list, so we will format the document so it looks a little bit better. All right, we still haven't created this. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to use the CLI to generate a service called in-memory data. Go back to our command line and run that CLI command. It creates two files, a TypeScript file and this test file, which we haven't really done much with in our videos, but they're important. And here it is, what do we call that again? In-memory data. So if I go down to my in-memory data .service.ts right here, I have some boilerplate code there, but I'm going to replace that with some code that actually does something. Copy that, delete this, and this is going to be our web service here. So again, we are actually sort of hard coding the array here because we don't want to actually go to the trouble at this point of creating a database, connecting that database, but in the real world we'll probably have something out to that. But here we at least have it behind some HTTP. And we can get an ID, or I'm sorry, generate ID. Eventually we're going to want to add new heroes to this, and these all have a unique ID, and the way we generate a new ID is we get the maximum of this heroes list, and we get the ID of that maximum, and then we add 1 to it. And if there is no maximum, which would happen if the list were entirely empty, we'll just return 11 for that ID. All right. Back in here, let's see, we're going to go to our hero service and change some things. So instead of just using that local copy of that local constant of the array of heroes, we're going to call this HTTP service. Let's do that. In hero.service.ts right here, we want to import HTTP client, HTTP headers. And then we can, in our constructor, we can inject the HTTP client and the message service. We already have the message service, so we're going to inject also this HTTP client that we got from here. And we want to add a method. We're going to be doing a lot of logging, so we're going to add a special method just to do logging right there. And that's the thing that just outputs at the bottom of the screen, lets you know that you retrieved all of the heroes or just got one hero, whatever. And then we want to specify the URL so that Web API module actually maps everything to, let me see here, this is this syntax here. So we'll have a private variable API/heroes. So that's going to call our service, our in-memory data service right here, and return this list of heroes. If we would call it with a get, it will. All right. Now we want in our hero service, we also want to add a method called getHeroes. Or actually, we have that method already. Right now, it's just returning the local array of heroes. Now we want to actually use the HTTP, calling our web API. So let's change the getHeroes method in our service, getHeroes, plural, right there. Replace that with this. And now here, this is what we're going to do. We use http.get. That's how you call a REST service with a get verb. And we'll pass in as a parameter API/heroes right up here. All right. And that will return an array of heroes. So by adding this right here, we can tell it exactly the strongly typed objects that are coming back, an array of heroes, and then we can work with it a little bit more easily. All right, let's do some error handling here. If we want to add some error handling, there's always a chance that some error might occur when we work with web services, even if we do everything right. So we're going to import RxJS, has some catch error. It also has some ways of mapping things and tapping into other for doing for methods every single time, so that we could do some aspect-oriented programming that way. All right, so we're going to use this pipe method in our getHeroes and tell it. We'll add that pipe to say that when you call this, if an error occurs, then catch the error with a method called handleError here in this class. And it should also return an array of heroes, and we'll pass in the getHeroes here. All right, so this is we have to write this. So let's write that. It's right here, handleErrors, and it accepts a generic T, but in this case, so it can take just about any object in here where it's going to accept the array of heroes. So if we can return that when we're done. And all it's doing is doing some logging here, like this, both to the console and at the bottom of the screen, and then it'll just return the same result. All right, so that's done. Now we also want to have a get hero by its ID number, right? We have that already. What we're going to do is change it so that instead of just filtering the list of heroes that this service knows about, instead we are going to make an HTTP request. So the URL for that will be API/heroes/ whatever ID is passed in as a parameter here, and then we'll call http.get with that full URL, API/heroes/ID, and then the same thing as before. We'll do some capital logging, and we'll have some error handling. The web API takes care of filtering that list for us by the ID. Let's go ahead and see if it works. Actually, let's make sure that we've saved all. File, save all, and then come over here, and here I am on my dashboard, and if I click on Narco right here, I see the details, and all that is right there. If I go back, I get the list of. Notice we do have an issue here that it didn't save our changes. If we go to the heroes list and click on Bombasto, and edit this, sure, it does change the model here and updates it here, but it doesn't, if I go back, I don't see that change here, and I don't see that change here either. And the reason is because every single one of these views, I'm going back to that web API and I'm pulling down a new list of heroes. As in the past, we're always working on the same list, the same array, and so if we removed something from it, it stayed removed throughout the entire single page application. Now we're always going back and refreshing that with each HTTP call. So we're going to address that in a few minutes. Right now, what I want to do is to update the heroes. So let's do that. Actually, if we update the hero, then we can actually push that change back to the database that the web service sees. And then every time we refresh it, we'll actually see those changes. So let's do that. Let's add a save button to our hero detail component. Right here, hero detail component HTML. We'll put a save button, how about right there. And you'll notice that on the click event, it calls a method called save, a method that we have not yet written. Let's go ahead and create that method in the corresponding component here. And this will call the update hero method on hero service, and it'll pass in the current hero. It's an observable, so we're going to subscribe to it. Now we haven't written update hero yet, so let's do that in our service. Here, there's the update hero method. Let's add that to the hero.service.ts right there. And this will, update hero will pass in a variable of type hero. It's called lowercase hero. And it returns an observable like most of these things will. And it calls this .http.put. So it'll call the web service with the put verb. And the web service call will be the URL API/heroes. It'll pass in the hero as a parameter. And HTTP options we haven't done yet. Let's do that. That's a constant. It's just header. The headers will be content type application JSON. So we'll add that up here. Constants in TypeScript go outside of the class. So adding that made the squiggly line go away. And let's do a save all and see if that worked on here. So now it's already auto refreshed, but just in case I'll refresh it. Anyway, if I go to Narco here, I see the details, and I'll type Narco, and then I will save it and go back, and it was saved here in the dashboard. It is saved here in the list of heroes, and the same thing with magenta. If I save it, then it takes me back here, and I get to see those changes here as well. So now we actually are persisting those changes. And this will work, of course, until we recycle the application, which will be true if I make even any change at all in here and save it. That should recycle my application, and now those changes go away because I reset that in-memory data store. All right. Similarly, we want to be able to add a new hero to this list and push it back, do it via a web service, so it actually changes that list that web server is aware of, and we can do that. Let's, where am I? Add a hero in our HTML for the heroes component. That's our list of heroes. So in our heroes component HTML, right here at the very top, we'll add a button. So hero name, colon, and then input text box where we can input the hero name, and then a button, and the click will call add, a method called add, and we'll pass in the value of this text box, and with a default of blank. Let's see. So we'll pass in the value, and then we'll reset the text box to blank. We haven't added this add method yet, so we need to go into our component and add it, and the code for it is right here. So let's add that, and what this does, we'll pass in a name, a string which we'll call name. First thing we'll do is trim all the spaces from it. If it's empty, stop there. Don't do anything else. If it's not empty, then we're going to call the add hero method of our hero service. Now, we haven't written that yet. That's why it's a squiggly line, but we'll pass into that same string, and it's going to return a hero. It's also, we want to push this hero that we've added onto our local array as well. So we've got a local array. Otherwise, we'd have to call get again and refresh that. Be one more round trip, which is probably good at a multi-user environment. But in this case, what we've elected to do is just our local copy. Then we're not seeing other people's changes until we completely refresh our list. All right, we'll save that. We now need to add this add hero to our hero service. Let's do that. Here's the code for it. So if I go down to hero.service, there's my add hero method. It takes an argument of type hero. We'll call it hero. It's going to return an observable of hero, and it's going to return actually this .http.post. So it'll send a post to API/heroes. In the body, it'll send the hero itself, the hero object, and the options will be what we set up here. The content type is application JSON. So right here, and then like we've been doing all along, we're going to tap into the logging so that it shows up in the bottom of our screen, and then also have error handling automatically added to it as well. And I think this part is done, so let's check if it works. Come over here, and it's already appeared here, so I'm going to add a new hero to this. We're going to call him David. Click on add, and it was added to this list here. And if I go over to, well, actually there's not much more I can see here, but it's been added to this as well. Dashboard is not one of the top 5, so I don't see it in my dashboard. But it persists that as I come back, and this refreshes the pages, then it will show up here as well. Okay, we've done the create, we've done the read, we've done the update. Might as well finish the CRUD operations, CRUD, by doing the delete right here. So we'll implement a delete. What we can do is add a button, and we'll stick the button on the heroes list. How about that? Let's do that. So come over here, and in our heroes, plural, right there, right after the name, we'll add a delete button. The text will be X, and we'll say that when you click that, it'll call a method called delete, and it'll pass in whatever the current hero is. We're iterating through this list of heroes. Each one we're just calling it hero. All right, so that method we haven't written yet. It'll go in here in the component, and here it is right here. There's the code for it. So down at the bottom, we'll add the delete method. It accepts an input, a parameter of type hero, which we call hero, and it just calls this. Well, first thing it does is it takes our local array and it filters it. It filters it to show only those in which the hero is not the current hero, the one we're deleting. So it gets out of the local list here, and then we're actually physically going to delete it on the back end by calling that web service. So we call hero service dot delete hero and pass in this hero, and then subscribe to that because this just returns an observable. But the delete hero we haven't written yet. It's in the heroes service, so we'll have to write that, and the code for that is right here. So here we go. Delete hero accepts a parameter of type hero. Actually, it accepts a parameter type hero or number. We're passing in a hero in this case, but you could just pass the number, and that's all you really need. And then the very first line, what it does is it says, give me the ID. If I passed in something of type number, then that number is the ID. If not, we must have passed in a hero, and we'll get hero.id. So that's what we'll get. If I pass in, hero number 13, then the ID, hero.id with 13 will be stored in here. All right, and then the URL is API/hero/ whatever ID that I passed in. And so then we're going to use this http.delete, call that URL, with the delete verb. Tell it content type is JSON, put that in the header, and then we'll pipe in this stuff here to do automatic logging and error handling as well. And this will return a hero. Actually, an observable of hero, I should say. And I think that's all this is right here. Yep. So let's do a save all here. Come back to our application, and there's that X next to it. And if we wanted to delete Rubberman, he's gone. There he is. Want to delete Narco, he's gone. If I go back to our dashboards, then you see Narco is gone. Somebody else in that top list. Okay, we have a little bit left in this lesson. We do want to add the search to the dashboard, but the video is getting a little longer than I like, and so I think I'll split this one up into 2 videos, and I'll see you next time when we'll add search to it. This is David. Thank you for watching.